Hi everyone. We're going to read Curious George Goes to the Zoo out of the 5-minute stories of Curious George. Curious George Goes to the Zoo. This is George. George was a little monkey and always very curious. Today George was feeling very excited. The man with the yellow hat was talking to him and was taking him to the zoo. As they drove, the man explained to George that it wasn't just any zoo that they were going to. It's called the Wild Animal Park, the man said. All the animals around roam freely. Roam freely meaning there's not a lot of cages and stuff like that. There's a cage, like a fence around the zoo, but not around each section of the animals where they live. They can just go anywhere in the park. Let me get my glasses. It says the Wild Animal Park. And it's also, look, this is a bush that is cut into an elephant, and it says baby rhino's first birthday. So I guess a little baby rhino is 1 year old and is going to have a birthday. When they arrived, George saw a huge banner. George looked up at it, but he could not read the words. A friendly zookeeper explained, "It's an extra special day here at the Wild Animal Park," she said. "It is our baby rhino's first birthday. We are going to have a party for her later on." A party? This was going to be a wonderful trip to the zoo. George tried to walk into the park where the animals were, but the zookeeper stopped him. "You can't walk in there," she said. "To explore the zoo, you have to ride in one of our special cars." She pointed to a huge car that had no roof on top. Oh my, what fun this was going to be. George and his friend climbed on board, and the car drove into the park. Soon they were in the midst of the Wild Animal Park. "Look over there," said the zookeeper. "There is a pride of lions." As you can see over here. "We have a large family here." George pointed in the other direction. "Yes, George," said the zookeeper. "I see the giraffes too. Their tall necks help them eat leaves from the top of the trees. And there are 2 ostriches running this way." George was happy to see so many animals. The zoo car drove past a small pond. Pink flamingos waded in the water. Their heads bobbed up and down as they walked on spiny legs. The flamingos turned pink because they eat so many tiny pink shrimp, said the zookeeper. But George was not listening. He had never seen flamingos before. He was curious about how those flamingos were moving. He leaned out of the back of the zoo car as far as he could to take a look, but then, uh-oh, what happened? What happened? He did what? He fell out, didn't he? First, George lost his balance. Then he fell, kerplunk, right out of the zoo car. His friend hadn't noticed that he had fallen. George ran as quickly as a little monkey could toward the pond. The flamingos bobbed their heads and lifted their feet at one time. It looked like they were dancing. George danced with them. So, why do flamingos have a pink color to all their feathers and their legs? Do you remember what it said? Why they have pink feathers and pink legs? It's because they eat so many shrimp. And if you look at shrimp down underneath the water, they kind of got a pinkish color to them. Suddenly, the water in the pond started to move. Then a hippo popped its head out. from under the water. What a surprise! George stopped dancing to take a look. The hippo opened its huge mouth, as if it were yawning. George opened his mouth wide too. It was fun to act like a hippo. Just then, George noticed that someone was rustling in the reeds near the pond. George was curious. Who do you see, or what do you see in the pond? What does that look like? Let's find out. George was curious. He wanted to see what was there. In an instant, he jumped out of the reeds. He poked his nose inside and saw a baby rhino. The tiny rhino was cute, and she looked a little bit sad and a little bit lonely. George wanted to make that baby rhino feel happy again. He thought and he thought. Maybe the baby rhino would like the flamingo dance. He jumped and bobbed his head and danced, his feet up and down. The baby rhino peeked her head out of the reeds so that she could watch. George danced more. The rhino walked out of the reeds. She was curious too. They were having so much fun that George didn't notice what was behind him. The zookeeper stomped over to George. She did not look happy. The man with the yellow hat was running behind her. "You are a naughty little monkey," said the zookeeper. "You were supposed to stay in the car. You and your friend will have to go." George walked to the man's side. He waved goodbye to the baby rhino. The man and the zookeeper turned to see whom George was waving to. "The baby rhino! Why, we've been looking for her all day," said the zookeeper. "She got separated from her mother." George was glad to see the zookeeper looking happy again. He and the man started walking towards the exit. The zookeeper ran to stop them. "Thank you for finding our baby rhino, George, and just in time for her birthday party. Will you join us for some cake?" George jumped with glee. He had forgotten about the party, and he did love cake. I'm sure you guys love cake, don't you? The man and George followed the zookeeper and the baby rhino back to the zoo headquarters. The rhino's mother was waiting there for her. The zookeeper brought out a special birthday cake that was shaped like a rhino. George had never seen a cake that was shaped like that before. You can have the first piece, George," said the zookeeper. "I also have a special treat for you." She placed a bunch of bananas in front of him. George was very happy to have a tasty banana, but he saved room for some cake too. And they've got a cake that's shaped like the rhinoceros for the rhino's birthday. And what birthday was it? Was the baby rhino's first birthday, right? And the zookeeper had been looking for the baby rhino, and the baby rhino was lost and scared. Have you ever been lost and scared before? And you might have been in the store and got lost and couldn't find your mom or dad, and then maybe somebody helped you, or maybe your mom or dad found you and you were relieved, right? So always make sure you stay by your parents' side or your grandparents or whoever you're staying with at the store or going with to the store. So I'm sure some of you have gone to different zoos, or at least one zoo. And a lot of times when you get into elementary school, they like to take you to the zoos often. And they like to take you to aquariums. And remember, we read another story about an aquarium. So lots of places that you can go when you start going to school, and you get to have lots of fun. So if you guys please click follow my YouTube channel, like this video, check the links below. I have things that I do make that do relate to the books that I do read. Also, the links to the places you can buy that. And please forgive me, they've got moped and they've got a four-wheeler riding around this neighborhood. constantly, so I'm sorry for that back noise. However, if you would like for me to read a book, like your child wants me to read one, please message me through Facebook, which is the link below. It's also called Lola's Enchanted Bookshelf page. And there you can message me, let me know what book, the author, the illustrator, the publishers, and if I'm able to read it, I will let you know ahead of time. Then get ready to record this, and I will give a shout out to that child on the video. So, again, if you like this book, go buy it or check it out in the library. It's what I did here. I checked it out in the library. You all have a good evening. Bye now.